Hello, this is Becky Benkert from the College of DuPage, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our second afternoon of the Growing Online Learning Conference presented by Illinois Community Colleges Online. The theme for the 2019 conference is Accessibility, the Road to Success. We hope that this year's conference will provide strategies and practices for colleges and faculty to use to improve accessibility in online instruction. ILCCO would like to thank College of DuPage for providing the web conferencing platform for use in this year's conference. College of DuPage is an ILCCO member. We'd also like to thank our captioner today, Laura Tompkins, who is providing live captioning, which you can have the option to view at the bottom of the page. Our schedule, briefly, for the next 2 days is on the screen. It can also be found at the conference website at ilco.net under Resources and Events. Links to attend the live sessions are found in your registration confirmation email and on the conference page. If you have any questions on registration or accessing the sessions, please contact Jeff Newell at jeff.newell@illinois.gov. Archives of these presentations will be available at the conference site on ilco.net following the conference. This afternoon, ILCCO is pleased to welcome Scott Rial, Susan Nugent, and Kona Jones as they present Moving Down the Road to Success, How to Approach Accessibility. Scott Rial has been involved in instructional design and educational technology for over 20 years. Discovering the field back in 1997 at the Faculty Instructional Development Lab, FIDDLE, at Western Illinois University. Scott has worked his whole career in the community college and calls it the best career many people overlook. Empowering faculty to provide a great experience for their students in the classroom, online, or anywhere in between is what drives Scott and his team at CLC. Susan Nugent is online support and instructional technology specialist at Lakeland College. Her job is to support faculty and students using software in the online courses, as well as providing technical support for special initiatives, such as Quality Online Task Force. Kona Jones is the Director of Online Learning and coordinates Faculty Academy at Richland Community College. She is responsible for the assessment of online courses and initiatives, providing the instructional design and pedagogical support to faculty, development of faculty and student technology training materials, and overseeing faculty professional development. Kona serves as a technology resource for the college as well as an adjunct instructor of statistics and developmental psychology. Her particular passion is student retention in online courses and, more specifically, assessing how different initiatives can improve student retention. She is also a Canvas coach and Canvassador, contributing extensively in the online Canvas community and elsewhere. Kona's academic background includes MS degrees in quantitative and cognitive psychology, undergraduate degrees in biology, psychology, and history, and PhD coursework in curriculum and instruction. Welcome, Scott, Susan, and Kona.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Okay, so I'll start with Lakeland, and this slide just kind of gives you an overview of what we've kind of done so far. In the next couple of slides, I'm going to share a little more deeper on each one of these points, and be sharing lots of links in the chat for you. So if you've got questions, please ask in the chat. So one of the first things we did was to add an accessibility statement to our website. Sad to say that we didn't have one for a long time and realized this was really important to have. We kept it really simple. It basically just states that, we strive to keep our website accessible, have a link to the WAG guidelines, and a way for students to report issues. One thing that it's kind of the initiative that I've been leading is trying to get more faculty to be more aware about accessibility and provide them training. So I've been doing a mix of face-to-face, online, and on-demand resources. We're also incorporating accessibility guidelines into the Online Quality Task Force. That's an initiative that we've got going right now, and it works really nice with that because that is part of that QACI rubric. So it's a nice way to incorporate accessibility awareness for faculty. And we're also encouraging faculty to take the ION accessibility courses. Right now we have 2 faculty that are completing that course, and it's been an eye-opener for them. So that's been really cool. When we went to Canvas in 2012, those course sites are really easy to use. So I built a course site and put all of our Lakeland specific guides in there. And so I've added some accessibility pages in there as well. I'll actually give you this link so that you can look at it. Let me pull up the link here. This page specifically is just talking about why accessibility is important. The video that I've embedded here is actually from the National Center on Disability and Access for Education. And that video goes over, why it's really important to students to have accessible documents. And then, of course, the links to the WAG guidelines as well. And I've put a little blurb on each one of those that kind of explains what that guideline means as far as their content. And then the next page, I have more practical guidelines because, in all honesty, the WAG guidelines are really developed for web developers. So some of the language is kind of hard to understand. So I've broken down this page to be more simplified and explain, why this one guideline is really important, and the Canvas and Microsoft guides that'll help them figure out, what they need to do to make their content more accessible. I'll give you this link as well. But this page basically just talks about making sure that you've got headings on your pages, that your content's formatted in paragraphs, that you're making sure that you're not using color in inappropriate ways. All of the things that are really important for accessibility. And then I've taken those pages, and I always do a semester checklist. This has kind of grown over time, but basically this checklist is like everything that I'm just trying to remind faculty of things that they should do at the end of every semester and the beginning of every semester. And I've included those accessibility links in there as well. So it's embedded in everything that they're doing. That just tries to raise awareness that these are things that they should be doing. In August of last year, we purchased Design Tools, which integrates with Canvas. And what's really cool about Design Tools is it streamlines course development. So you're not having to spend a lot of extra time building content. And it's designed to take content that's marked up properly, and you can style it with the style guides that come directly from Canvas. So there's 3 components to Design Tools. The multi-tool, which is a way where you can create templates with your pages, and then the module builder, which allows you to create content based off those templates, and then the assignment due date modifier, which everybody loves because that allows faculty to change their assignment due dates all on one page. And then number 2 there is the image uploader, which does have some limited image editing tools. And then the design tools panel itself, number 2 and number 3 are actually in the rich content editor. So when you edit a page, you'll see these. But the design tools panel doesn't preload. They would have to click the rocket icon, and then it overlays the right sidebar. In there, you do have accessibility tools. So if you've built your content with design tools, it's going to let you know when things are not accessible. It looks for headings that are out of order. It looks for images that don't have alt text. And it also looks for links that are using language that isn't very descriptive, like click here. So it's an easy way for faculty to kind of do a check on their documents to see if they're accessible. And of course, they can always use the accessibility checker in the rich content editor as well. Here's just an example of one of my workshops with the design tools. So it kind of gives you an idea of how the page can look when you're using design tools. It just makes it a lot easier for people who don't know HTML to create pages that look really nice. We are currently reviewing video platforms. Obviously, when you have video content and it's not captioned, that can be a big deal. So this is one way that we can provide faculty with a way to get video content into their courses and have a way of captioning them relatively easily. Both platforms, I've seen demos of both platforms, and they both have an auto caption option, which looks pretty slick. It basically, you just request the captions, and then you can come back and look at the video and make any edits that you need to make, but I think the accuracy is pretty good from what I've seen so far. So it's never an easy road to get to accessibility, and it's always ongoing. So these are kind of some of my tips to, if you're struggling with it on your own campus, is to get that buy-in from your administrative staff and faculty. And then just provide faculty with that support. You know, a lot of times when you start talking about accessibility, a lot of people get glazed over, and so it's just providing that support for them. And then finding your accessibility champions on campus and collaborating with them. And that's pretty much our road so far. Anybody have questions? I think I'll lead it off to Kona now.
Hi everyone, this is Kona Jones from Richland Community College, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about Richland's current road to accessibility. As Sue mentioned, it's kind of a never-ending journey that constantly is having twists and turns. So I would say we aren't anywhere close to being done with our journey, but this is kind of how we've started and where we're at. So similar, strangely enough, or maybe not, depending on how you guys too, our road started with, we really needed to just add that accessibility statement to our website footer. For us, we really had to get that buy-in from our administrators. If we didn't have that buy-in from administrators, I don't think we would have been able to make such big inroads as we have in such a short period of time. So kudos to our administrators who recognize the importance of this. We also put together an accessibility task force, and I think having some kind of task force, some kind of committee, some kind of something that can kind of help you develop your plan of attack, I think that's really helpful. just to make sure all the different voices that need to be heard on your campus are coming together to kind of plan things out. We also purchased some additional software to help make this process easier. We actually got a grant for 6 of our staff or faculty. It's kind of a mixed bag to attend accessibility training offered through ION. So once again, yeah, the shout out to ION and their Foundations of Accessibility. We are going to be able to go through that program with 6 of our mixed staff and faculty. But then also similar to what Sue said, it's really important to get that buy-in from faculty. Ultimately, a lot of this, while it's part of the college's job and staff as well, it's also, I mean, in the classrooms, the day-to-day is really with our faculty. So it's really important to make sure our faculty are being connected. So very similar to Sue, we've got our little thing at the bottom. It's got our non-discrimination statement, provided the contact people at Richland for Title IX and 504, and who to contact for additional information. Here's the more specific. I don't think it's super sexy or anything like that, but it's got everything that we needed to make sure that, I guess, we can't be sued and that we've got the information that people might need if they need to talk to someone about one of these issues, or they need to make some kind of complaint, or they need more information. So not super imaginative, but it's the information we needed to have there, and it's probably similar or not too far off from what many of you might already have on your websites as well. So for our accessibility plan, our task force was not super huge, and I think the reason for that is that it kind of grew out of what was our, we had an institutional effectiveness group, which is a really big group, and we were kind of talking about accessibility in that group, and we decided that we needed kind of a task force. So instead of doing it in a big, huge group because we wanted to move fast, we said, you know what, we're going to kind of make it a smaller group, still representative, but smaller, so that way we could potentially be a little more nimble, be a little bit quicker in meeting a little more frequently than sometimes when you've got bigger groups. So we had our CIO, our Chief Information Officer, Director of Online Learning, which is myself, Director of our Learning Resource Center, and this is the person who's over our testing, tutoring, accommodations. We did have our accommodations specialist, and then we also included faculty. When we met, we kind of looked at where the college was at right then, which at that point was not super great. And then we said, where do we need to be? And this is, like we said, it's kind of an ever-evolving road. But at the same time, we said, well, let's look at the minimums. And we really felt the things we needed to focus on most right then were our videos. And that would be videos, not only the videos put out like through our college, but our faculty videos that faculty were creating and were using in their online classrooms. Website, so we really needed to make sure that our college website was accessible. And then LMS, so our learning management system, which we do use Canvas, and then documents. So this was kind of our step-by-step, this is what we're going to be working on. For video, we did end up buying a program, purchasing something, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. For the website, we're actually doing a complete website redesign. And part of that, when we were looking for bids to help with the redesign, we really made sure that the company who's doing it was up on all of their current accessibility standards, and that our website should really be the best of the best when it comes to accessibility. For the learning management system, the video platform we made sure would plug in, work directly with our learning management system. And then we also have started working on what are some of the other ways within the learning management system that we can make the content more accessible. The last piece is going to be documents. For us, this is probably the biggest and the scariest one. And this is where we're hoping we're going to finish some of that ION training and gain the education we need to be able to start educating our staff and our faculty. So where did we go after this? Ark is our video platform that we use. So Sue kind of mentioned that this is one of the ones that they're looking at. Well, we also looked at this one to replace our previous one. I will say one of our biggest selling features for this one and moving to Ark was the fact that it includes, as of at least right now, so who knows, it's still a relatively new program, but right now they weren't capping us. They didn't have like a maximum storage capacity. They weren't charging us every month based on views or on uploads. So basically we are free, both us and our students, and that's something we love as well. Students can use Ark as well as our faculty and our staff to create as many videos or upload as many videos as they want, and we love that. So super easy to create and upload video. They can edit the video, can embed quiz questions in the video. Students can comment directly on the video. We've got analytics, so we can see how much students watch the video or not, but the accessibility part, so the thing that was kind of the ding, 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 this is kind of why we went with it, was that it really does have high quality auto captioning. We compared a couple different products, and when we looked at the auto captioning of the different ones, Ark was really doing an excellent job. It didn't have perfect punctuation, but it did include some punctuation, some capitalization. I finally got it to where it's finally actually getting my name correct, which that sounds funny, but I make a lot of videos, and seeing it, not do my name right every time, it's kind of a downer. But so we really, the auto captioning was kind of that accessibility piece that allowed us to take this forward and go ahead and get it. We do also love that it integrates directly with Canvas. It looks and feels just like a piece of Canvas. Canvas actually is the person who, or the company who created Ark, so Ark is from Canvas, and so it's a beautiful, wonderful, perfect integration. Just looks really good. Our timeline, we actually got it almost a year ago. We didn't start transitioning though until summer. So for summer, we started transitioning. The push for captions started. I will say that's where my office came in quite a bit. I've got 3 student workers, and my student workers have been captioning fools because even though auto caption's really nice, that doesn't mean you can't, or that you shouldn't still go back through and check your captions, correct? Well, when our faculty were transitioning, some of them had a lot of video and they weren't captioned. So my student workers have learned a lot about a lot of different subjects because they have been watching all of our biology videos, our psychology videos, our film history videos, and been making sure all of our captioning is up to snuff and accurate. So we started that in summer. Fall 2018, we continued that transition, and then spring 2019, in theory, knock on wood, as far as we're aware, all of our video should be captioned right now. And we also do a big push for when you add video, part of the process is you just go ahead and create your captions or request your captions and then go ahead and publish them. So to help faculty with this, we did have a Ark faculty training that we created. This was a really great resource. You can see the different tabs going across the tab talking about uploading video, captioning, screen capture, using Ark in your course, and FAQ. So we covered all the different topics. We had some face-to-face training, and then as part of this as well, each tab would contain links to different guides and handouts, as well as videos, tutorials that would take people exactly through how to use the captioning, how to do whatever they needed to do. So we really felt pretty good about this transition. It's actually been a pretty easy one. Faculty seem to really like Ark, and students seem to like it as well. So for us, it was a definite win. Another piece of Canvas now, we don't have design tools, so I will say I'm super, super jealous of Sue and design tools because I think design tools is a pretty awesome product. We don't have design tools, but luckily Canvas does have a built-in accessibility checker. I'm going to go into more detail. I actually have a presentation tomorrow morning as part of this series where I'm going to go into more detail. So I won't go into too much detail here with this one, but Canvas does have a built-in accessibility checker, and we've not only made this obviously available, well, it's always available, but made this kind of promoted it to our faculty. But we're also really pushing, especially this semester, some training sessions on how to use it and to get faculty to go through their content and use this accessibility checker to try to make sure our learning management system content is accessible the way it should be. As part of, I talked before, we got the grant to get that digital accessibility for educators certificate. One of the options is going through the different 4-week courses and then the 8-week universal design course. So here you go, there's my huge plug for ION, and good job for ION. And right now, what we're doing is that we're going to, instead of doing this 4-week, 8-week, we're going to actually be doing kind of the condensed 3-day version. So if anyone's interested and you can get enough people together, ION will actually do a condensed, take all of this, cram it into like 3 full action-packed, amazing days. And that's, I think, the option that we're going to be going with. So we're working with Vance. Yeah, we've got some, yeah, 3 days, wow, but also the condensed workshop is awesome. And so that's our plan. We're excited. We're kind of a little scared, but we're excited and looking forward to that because it's going to be this coming. In fact, we're still working out the detailed bands to get our exact dates, but it will be this semester that we're going to put the 6 people through this 3-day boot camp, so to speak. So, yay! And here we've got someone saying, a teacher will be teaching all these courses online for those who are interested. All right, so there we go. Everything I've heard for people who have been taking some of these is that they are absolutely amazing classes, and everything I've heard from the people who have done the 3-day one, they've got nothing but great things to say as well. So I haven't done it yet, but I am excited to go through it. But like I said, maybe a little scared. Where is the 3-day workshop held? We're actually going to have one on our campus. We had enough people that we could do it on our campus. So you can do it on your campus. In fact, Joyce, if you're like really interested, you know, maybe we could see if you want to come up to our campus and do it with us. But otherwise, you can hold them on your own campus. You just have to work out the details with ION and with Vance to make sure everything works with them, obviously. So, but kudos to them, really excited. Then looking forward, so where are we going? So we want to develop additional accessibility training materials. I think we've made a good initial first attempt, but especially after seeing everything Sue has done, I think we could do a lot better and a lot more. So we're going to be working on that, develop additional accessibility training workshops. I will say both of these pieces we have known and they're in the plan that we need to do them, but we really wanted to finish the ION accessibility training and then do this. We didn't want to put something together, then go through the training and realize, oh wow, we really should have done X, or I wish we would have done Y. So we know this is important and we want to do it, but we just want to make sure that we aren't wasting our time and that we're doing it right the first time. We also are continuing to work to get buy-in from faculty. Like I said, faculty really are kind of a make or break thing when it comes to getting all of this online and using it. So we have to make sure we're making the case with our faculty and for our faculty, and then we have to offer them the tools, the resources, anything we can to help support them on this journey. I feel that we're all in it together, and so anything we can do to help make that transition easier and to help them keep it up, but also just to help them understand the importance of it is just so vital. And I think that's pretty much it for Richland. Thank you for listening in. If you've got any questions, you can put them in there. Otherwise, feel free to contact me directly. And I'm going to pass it off to Scott.
Thank you, Kona. So you're going to see a lot of familiarity in some of the things that I'm going to talk about from both Sue and from Kona. I think there is a lot of similarity in the way this process tends to work. And so I know in preparing for this, I saw a lot of themes that were very true to what we've experienced. I'm from College of Lake County, so hello from almost the Wisconsin border. It's still cold here, though, you can rest assured. So our road, as you see, has some definite similarities, support from the administration, and the theme of equity. So those two things kind of go together, and I'll talk about that in a second. We too built an accessibility task force. Ours is a little different than what Kona described, so I'll kind of show you the difference and kind of how that came about. We too adopted some tools that we put accessibility as a primary attribute, and so we'll talk about that here in a second. And then, of course, a faculty investment and training. And I think that's the biggest thing, which is probably no surprise, but it's also probably one of the biggest challenges, especially when we think of all the materials that have already been created and then coming and saying to someone, okay, now we'd like you to reconsider all that in a way. So the idea of our support from the administration, we had a an excellent development week, which is the week before our semester, where we had a presentation from Dr. J. Luke Wood, who is the co-director of a center called the Community College Equity Assessment Lab, or CEAL, out of San Diego State University. And the reason I bring this up is because equity has already been a major theme on our campus, but even from the presentation from Dr. Wood, his focus and that center's focus is equity in a wider way, but it concentrates more on equity for African American males, for example, which is certainly an important consideration. But when you look at his definition that he offered us, equity refers to a heightened focus on groups experiencing disproportionate impact in order to remediate disparities in their experiences and outcomes. Well, that of course works perfectly well for the idea of our students that are accessibly challenged. There's plenty of work in equity for that population as well, and I think it's been not just my job, but many people's jobs to also talk about equity in this space, and we often talk about equity in those other spaces, which is again also very important. And at the same time, our college is developing its next strategic plan, and I'm sure equity is going to be part of that strategic plan, so it parlays very well into our efforts around accessibility. So it's just very nice when those themes come together. So, my accessibility task force looks to have been shrunken. That's okay. So we created this accessibility task force. It actually did not start from my area. It actually started from that vice president of student development. And one of the things you should notice, that I may have lost a couple people. No, I think we're okay. So one of the things you'll notice is our task force is all across campus, including our facilities director, including our HR director, our disability service office, of course, our CIO, our public relations director. And that's a very interesting one, actually, because those folks are one of our leaders on campus for accessibility, which is kind of unique, I think. But they have some folks up there that are very much in tune with what's going on with accessibility. In my experience, this process usually comes from more the academic side, but it's a little bit unique. But of course, they are also in charge of the website, as Kona mentioned earlier at Richland, and it's a similar situation here. So this group gets together and we talk about all accessibility issues, whether they're physical, whether they're electronic, and we consider what else we can be doing. And so far, one of the things that we've started to work on is an accessibility plan, which is something that is not in place formally, but this group is working on that process. So I mentioned that we've also looked for new tools, and surprise, surprise, the biggest tool that came out of our work as well is a tool for video. Our video history at College of Lake County, we actually started with an early tool that at the time was called Camtasia Relay, which is now called TechSmith Relay. And it was a tool that we brought on in 2012 and primarily provided faculty the ability to create screencast type content, excuse me. The editing capabilities were extremely limited. The process worked very well, though. We have since outgrown that tool, and we actually spent the whole previous semester looking for a new solution to fit our well-expanded needs in this area. So when we went about that search, we came up with our three biggest themes, and people who've talked about this process already today have hit on these, but the first one was how well it can integrate with the learning management system. The second was how well it can auto-generate captions, because everything we have found says that and this was in conjunction with our disability services director, if we can create captions at the beginning when content's being created, it makes all the difference. And we've got numerous pieces of research that we can point to show that. So we needed something that made good captions, good auto-generated captions. And the third thing was the ease of use for faculty and the flexibility. And the solution that we found is actually called Panopto. And Panopto is, we looked at 3 solutions. We looked at TechSmith Relay, we looked at Panopto, and we looked at a product called Kaltura. We're currently a Blackboard school, and so we were looking for a solution that would work even if we changed our LMS in the future. And so that was another thing that this fit. Another thing that's nice about this tool, without getting too far into the weeds of it, the caption capability is also configurable for the viewer. So if you need higher contrast, if you need a larger font, so not even the generation of the captions, but the consumption of the captions. The other thing I'll say about captioning, my pro tip and everything that we've looked at thus far is sometimes captioning, the auto-generated captioning is very important with the equipment that you're using, the microphone capability. Just like we can't understand if the sound in the microphone's not working well, the machine is pretty much the same thing. So I've tried to keep that message out front, because it's great to expect our technology to generate captions for us. And again, they're not perfect, but they're way better than they used to be. And the thing that makes that percentage in terms of accuracy go up is that the sound is good. So we're really trying to keep that equipment piece in mind. We want flexibility. We want our faculty and our students to use this system. But we also want to make sure that that understanding is there, that some of these kind of features, like auto-generated captioning, will be better if you're conscious of situations like how the sound is being captured. So we worked with a committee of students and our Disability Services office throughout this whole semester-long trial. We thoroughly tested each of these solutions, and we're very excited. We're actually in the process of bringing on this system, hopefully in a matter of weeks at this point. And the other thing, and it was great to hear Kona talk about her student workers, is we are exploring that same idea, that hopefully our solution will do 75, maybe even 80% of the captioning in an auto-generated way, but looking at student workers to help us kind of reach that last mile. So that is still in development, but we already have a current student worker. I would be curious, and I'll certainly touch base with Kona. I see captioning as something that you can probably only do for a certain amount of time, and then you're going to need a different task, because it would seem to me like that would get pretty rough to continually do for 6 hours straight. So that has been our foray into a new tool with Panopto, and we're very excited about the capability there. The other thing is we have a plan in development about how to get the existing video onto this new system and captioned. And that's going to probably take us another year just to, first of all, find the content that needs to be saved. And second of all, how we can then move that information over and make sure it gets captioned correctly. So the last, or one of the last points for me, is that idea of faculty investment and training. The accessibility efforts, one of the things we're looking at right now, we've been a Blackboard school for a very long time, what would probably be generations in technology terms, but we're actually at a point where everything is changing, and we're taking a look at our LMS options, which I think is probably something we're a little bit overdue for. So as part of that process, we're going to be doing some kind of transition with a lot of the content that lives on our learning management system. So this is a prime time for us to weave in accessibility information, universal design concepts, a lot of these things that we've talked about for a long time. But now when you're already working on your content anyway, it's a great time to look at that from a new perspective and get that information again right at that time. And then I mentioned earlier our public relations folks, and they're actually bringing in their own accessible document training targeted for all college employees, and that will happen in the fall of 2019. And that grew out of an effort that started with the website and just moved to that idea of testing for overall accessibility. And it's one of those things that, you know, as most of us are probably aware, just a little bit of knowledge in what it really takes to do this, it can go a long way, especially as you're creating content from the beginning. The training of providing captions and utilizing the new Panopto tool is definitely on the list. And finally, that just the messaging to be proactive with accessibility. And you've heard other people say it, and it's true. The common attitude that I've run into for many years on campus is, well, I'll worry about that when I have somebody who needs it. And unfortunately, that can work, but it usually costs a lot more money and costs a lot more effort. So we're sort of modeling this initially with the video content, but plan to expand that into all of our content generation, especially. And then I know our folks in public relations are working hard on the website. We're actually in the process of doing a website overhaul as well, and accessibility will by far be on the front end of that, just because of the folks that are involved with that process. So finally, the continual creation of that accessibility plan, that those opportunities to model some of the universal design principles and just good accessible content creation, that's definitely one of our next steps. Implementation of the Panopto tool, for example, and implementation of all of these things, really, the plans and the training. And then internal and external training opportunities. And what I meant by that was, I love the idea of the integrating the ION training, and hearing about the 3-day intensive opportunity sounds really great as well. And again, as I said earlier, we have some external trainers coming that our PR department is sponsoring, so we're excited about that. And then our internal opportunities as well, which we've done in the past, but I think with some of the new approaches and just some of the moving parts that are happening here at CLC, we've got some unique opportunities to advance that. So that's what I have, but this was an opportunity, you know, a panel. So if you all have questions for myself or for any of the presenters, this would be a great time. We've got about, well, we've still got a good 15 minutes or so left. I know there's some information for us at the end, but I'd be happy to entertain a question, or if you have a question for one of the other presenters as well, now's the time.
I know you didn't want to get into the weeds too much, but I will say, with the moving content over, we actually utilized our student workers for that. We trusted our faculty to let us know what needed to be moved over, and then we actually had the student workers helping move content over, and then they would be captioning as they were moving over. So our student workers were really our workhorses, and I give huge kudos to them. I don't think we probably paid them nearly enough money, but we did feed them as they were doing it. I will also say they are still captioning because as faculty want more videos added, and sometimes they can't keep up with it, our student workers really are a really huge help. And someone had a question, what motivated your administrators to take significant action? We actually had, and I can't think of the exact name of it, but we had a committee from the state of Illinois, and I'm not sure if it was higher ed. Jeff might know exactly what committee this is, but they came and did an accessibility evaluation at Richland, and they looked at everything from our curbs in our parking lot and our sidewalks to everything in the building, our websites. They looked at everything, and getting the feedback from that was your Office of Civil Rights review. Thank you, Jeff. See, I knew if I just put enough out there, you would be able to know what I'm talking about. But when we did that review, that feedback really helped spur on our administration to take accessibility seriously.
I can take that one from College of Lake County, and what actually started things, especially here, was a veiled threat of legal action, which actually I think was not even real, but it was at least enough to definitely get people's attention. And it's kind of sad that that's what it came to, even though it wasn't a sort of a real situation, but it was the thing that kind of motivated things to start happening. And so that that kind of brought that task force together to get started. So that does happen.
I would say for us it was probably more organic. We had a lot of restructuring of a lot of people were playing musical chairs around campus, and there was a lot of restructuring going on, so it just came organically out of that process, I believe.
Kona, can I ask how many student workers worked on that operation?
We have 3. And if you think about it, student workers can only work a maximum of 20 hours, and one of our student workers was not doing the full time. I think he was only doing 10 hours. So it was labor intensive. We called it a summer of captioning, because basically everyone in my office was either captioning, moving videos over, downloading videos, or working on training materials for videos. It was the summer of captioning last summer. Has a ring to it, like summer of monkeys, but the summer of captioning, right? But,
sounds like you needed t-shirts.
Oh gosh, yeah, that would have been a lot of fun. But it really, honestly, most of that is more labor intensive. It doesn't take, I mean, granted, I think our student workers are pretty skilled because they are normally our programming and our IT students, so they are high functioning student workers, but at the same time, a lot of that, it doesn't take a lot other than click here, download there, upload, click caption, go in, review captions. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Someone also has a question. What would each one of you have said has been the most difficult thing to overcome in this journey of bringing accessibility? I will say for us, it's that nothing seems black or white. For everything you think, oh, this is what we're supposed to be doing, there's like a gray. Like, how much is enough? How much is not enough? Even when we did the civil rights review, even when we asked for follow-up on some of the things that they recommended, specifically for website technology, videos, learning management stuff, they were kind of nebulous in some of their answers. It was kind of like, well, as long as you can show that you're making an effort and you've got most of it, or as long as you can do that. I mean, it was just very not black or white. It was very gray. And so I think for us, it's almost kind of like trying to hit a moving target. And so for me, that's been the hardest thing, and it's still the hardest thing.
I would say here at CLC, probably the biggest challenge is getting that faculty buy-in. That's more than just, well, yeah, I understand that, but it hasn't affected me yet. And I know that, and I also think that people see it as sort of a challenge that is too much to handle, so it's better to ignore. Now, usually there comes a point where you can't ignore it anymore. So I think that's why I know I've tried to look for opportunities where work had to be done anyway. But I think people probably envision it a lot like Kona described the summer of captioning. I think they see it as a very big mountain. They think of all the things they've already created. One of the things I took away from my experience with the 4-week class in ION is that it's 2 things. It's the mindset of starting a piece of content and having accessibility in mind when you do that. And the other thing is that changing things really isn't that difficult. And you don't even have to lose a lot of design. I've talked to people, content creators, and one of the things they'll say is, well, if I have to do that, it won't look the way I want it to look. And that really isn't the case. And there's a lot of tools today that we didn't have. There's a lot of strategies today that we didn't have when I started in all of this. And I think it's a lot more reasonable. And the other thing I look to is a lot of people that are big content generators online today essentially all use some type of markup language. And I don't want to get too technical on all this, but we're familiar with HTML. There's other things like Markdown. There's a lot of, and really what those are ways to simplify publishing, but also work well in the guise of keeping things accessible, because what you're really doing is doing very simple text editing, and you're teaching an interpreter like a web browser or something like that how to actually format that. And that kind of approach is way more accessible than getting into something like and I'll pick on Microsoft Word, because there's a lot of other things that go in behind that. And even Microsoft Word has improved quite a bit, but there's always more information behind there than just the text on the page.
I'd have to agree with Scott. On our side, it's probably faculty feeling overwhelmed when you're telling them that they need to make sure their content's accessible. So just providing those faculty that support and just showing them that it's not that hard really to start, creating your content with accessibility in mind.
Looks like that's about it for our questions at this time. I would like to thank Scott, Susan, and Kona. Let's thank them either in the chat or provide them some feedback by clicking the applause. Our full schedule for this week is on the screen. Remember that our next session is tomorrow at 10 a.m. and it's titled Moving Down the Road to Success: How Different Learning Management Systems Address Accessibility. This is a panel session presented by Kona Jones, Salome Essignon, and Laura Tompkins. Links to attend the live sessions are found in your registration confirmation email. If you have any questions on registration or accessing the sessions, please contact Jeff Newell at jeff.newell@illinois.gov. Archives of these presentations will be available at the conference site on ilco.net following the conference. Thank you, and I hope you can join us tomorrow.